Hey, this is George,
Hey, this is Frazier.
and this is Real Talk with George and Frazier. And this is part two to our Muay Thai special that we have today. We have with us Master Dave Gomez. How are you doing, sir?
Hello, guys. Thanks
Yeah,
for
good.
having me.
Good, good,
Great,
good.
sir.
Absolutely. So we had Milton on yesterday. If you could just adjust your camera a little bit, right, so we can see it. That's beautiful.
Ryan. There we go.
Talking about Muay Thai training. We appreciate you coming on, between sessions to talk to us here at Real Talk. And we're looking forward to a great interview. How you doing, sir?
Great, thank you. Appreciate me
Yeah,
having me.
Good, good, good.
Get to see
So,
you, Coach.
so tell us, how did you get started in Muay Thai training?
Well, I've been involved in martial arts my whole life. My dad was a martial arts instructor as a kid, and he taught a variation of karate. And coming up and seeing competition, I always kind of hoped and wanted to train in Muay Thai because of movies I had been inspired by and things that I had seen along the way, but never really found an instructor that could help me. And then once I graduated high school, I started traveling and going everywhere I could to learn from every Muay Thai instructor who could help me. And now I've kind of made it my mission to make it so that my students won't have to go through the same crazy journey to get to it.
All right, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, how long have you been teaching Muay Thai? It looks like you're in a gym right now.
Yeah. I built an outdoor camp here on my property. I've been
Nice.
teaching pretty much my whole life. As a kid, my dad's karate program, he always needed help. So even throughout high school, I was always my first jobs were always teaching and starting kids programs and things like that. And I think even as I've become into my career now, I think my specialty still lies in the kids, and that's what I love to do the most.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
What let me just follow up real quick with that because I'm a martial arts instructor myself. I've been teaching for over 20 years taekwondo. But
Nice.
what ages do you start teaching your students Muay Thai?
I think and I talk with families a lot where that question is asked to me, and I think with every kid that might be a different answer. I have my youngest little guy started here with this program at 2 years old, and handled it, caught right on, handled things really great. And then sometimes I've met like other 5-year-olds who are still not quite ready. So
Right.
that answer might be different for each little guy.
Okay. And just one more follow up. I'm sorry. What's the oldest? And the reason why I ask is because sometimes I have a lot of adults that come into my program and they're just like, oh, I wanted to do this when I was younger, but I can't do it now. And I say, when you're teaching martial arts or training taekwondo, whatever it is, you come in where you're at. You're not going to do what a teenager can do. You're not going to be as flexible as a young kid, but you come and meet the training program where it's at, and you can do what you can do. Because I have 50-year-old and 60-year-old people that walk into the school to just learn and become active.
Absolutely. I'm really proud of my oldest uh, student. His name is Willie, and he lived a very crazy life before now, and has been a federal air marshal, a SWAT team officer, a Marine, and all kinds of special forces stuff. He's done some missions with the CIA, but now he's 66, going to be 67 pretty soon, and just started training with us 3 months ago.
Nice.
And
Nice.
he said a speech to me that sounded a lot like what you just said. He said, I want to take the martial arts training to better myself. I'm not trying to compare myself to anybody younger than me or older than me for that matter. I'm just trying to take where I am now and make that a little better.
Nice.
And maybe the martial arts can help us to apply that to everything we do in life. Maybe we can use that same approach for everything.
Okay. Beautiful answer. I like that answer.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Fraser.
Uh. So Coach, you started a program of Beautiful Violence. Then, what inspired you to start that to influence others to enjoy the love of Muay Thai tradition and the culture?
Well, I I have been training in fighting gyms for all of my life, and I've always wanted to become a better competitor. I found that where it is, I would go train and feel good about training and feel proud in the environment that I'm in, and feel comfortable in the environment I'm in. The gym that I would find that would not be the same place that I could take my son or that I could take my girlfriend. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting them, in the gym that I felt comfortable with my kid. I probably wouldn't feel like I'm really getting fight training in that same place, and I don't believe that those have to be different buildings or even different approach for that matter. In all my visits to Thailand, I've been able to train with 10-year-old kids and 50 and 60-year-old people all in the same room, learning the same thing and trying for the same goals and to make ourselves better. And I think um, my approach to the martial arts is to try to help people with that, is to try to help people understand that we can make the best of every single situation we're in, and we can get better from every single situation that life offers to us. And Muay Thai might be a vehicle for us to do that too. So I have a poster on my wall that inspires me every time that I see it, and it says, "Nobody knows how much violence it took to live this beautiful." And that's where I got the beautiful violence thing from.
Nice. So, one more question for you. So for those out there who trying to train and better themselves, like what regimen you would give them? Let's say someone who just start out versus somebody who's way advanced. Like, how would you approach teaching from the beginning
Well,
level to the experience
I think
level?
I think the philosophy that George just said with us is actually the best way to go. Like, I am where I am now, and I want to better myself. I want to be better. I could take that approach with anything that I ever do. If I took a math class, like, I am at the level I am now, but I'll be better at math at the end of this class. And I think maybe if we apply that philosophy to everything, even in the martial arts, we can always get better. We always have room to grow.
Nice.
We when the beginning of the shutdown, I know that my gym was having some tough times, and I reached out to my friends in the Muay Thai community who would probably be going through the same thing. We put together a website to do virtual classes and be able to connect all of our communities, even though we're all in different countries, we're all in different states. But it's become a great way for us to reach all of those people from all levels, and even some people who could never drive to a Muay Thai gym or don't have one near them. And that same question comes up a lot. How do I approach it if I'm advanced, or how do I approach it if I'm beginner? And I feel like it's the same. Let's just walk into it where we are now and try to be better than that.
Okay. So how did that virtual training go for you? Because I know that when where were we at? Because I started at the YMCA and I still teach at the YMCA. They weren't really prepared for the virtual training, and it was a little bit off because you're dealing with basements, you're dealing with living rooms, you're dealing with bedrooms and space. And I just tell a lot of students, always work on your basics because your basics will carry you through everything that you want to do. Like, for instance, when you're competing, you don't see too many guys jumping and flying all over the place. You see them with the basic 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And then I also tell my students, the first thing to go is your legs when you're competing. So when you're really exhausted and tired, all you have left are your hands, so to speak. It's very rare that you'll throw a kick, when you're completely exhausted. So how did that whole virtual training go for you? Were you able to still get the training across at certain levels, or was it modified for your students?
I I approach some of the classes like it's very challenging as a coach. It's like you said, like I have some people that are in a basement, some people that are in a great big area, and some people that are high level, and some people that are low level, and some people with a bad internet connection, and some people with a good one. But what I've tried to do is approach my classes in two separate directions. One of them completely based in the physical fitness aspect, and then the other one's based in the foundational basics, like you said about fighting. In Muay Thai, there might be different techniques, but it's built on the same things. A great sword is a great sword, and to make it better, we take a little metal off. We don't add any more. You could be a great fighter without spinning kicks and jumping, flying stuff, but you can't be a great fighter without a jab.
That's right.
So I've spent some of these virtual classes with all levels, advanced and beginners together, working on just maybe a basic combo, one basic combo for an hour. And if we break those down into really, really simple details, if we bring it all down, it's not boring because we're always moving something better. And by the end of it all, people really have a great understanding of what we do. Um, so I guess to answer the virtual question is like, I have some classes that are completely based in the physical fitness part and some that are based in the technical part, but both of them are just repeating some foundational basics.
Okay. Okay. Frazier, you got a question?
Yeah. Okay. So, all your experience, like you've trained a lot of people. but you have to also train a lot of good champions. Like, how do you feel about that when you see your hard work and dedication to your students pay off?
We have a little bit of a glitch there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It might be raining, so that might be causing the internet connection to glitch.
Hold
All
on,
right.
I couldn't really hear you there, Devern.
Okay.
It might be, yeah, it's raining over here.
Rain. Oh, sorry,
What,
man.
what, what
I'll
you need?
repeat it for you.
Let's try. Let's try that question again, Devern. What'd you say?
Okay. What I was asking was, you train a lot of good champions, and how do it feel to see your hard work pay off? The dedication, the sweat you put into it, and see their hard work pay off and actually becoming champions and be proud of themselves.
Well, I'm glad that you guys had the chance to talk with Milton because his story is his journey into becoming a champion might be some of the most proud moments of my whole life. And I see, I've gone to these world championship tournaments year after year, and some of my students have won them, and some of my students have come really close, and all of my students have made me very, very proud in the process and the journey of it all. But with with a 20-year-old guy who's super in shape and had all the natural gifts going for him. Um, it's a certain kind of proud to win the world championship, but to go with a 40-year-old man who had everything working against him, who had to lose 80 pounds to even be in that position, who had just began the training process, much older in age than the guys at that tournament, and then to take him there and win that was a life changing growth of pride for me. And I think I'm far more proud of the things that my students have accomplished along the way than I could ever say for the things I even did. The feeling is far, far greater in the moments that I get to share with a Milton winning a world championship than it ever was for me to be in the ring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. I was telling a story also of Milton also how I trained with Milton also. And I was telling my story also how you got me to enjoy the love of Muay Thai by feeling the same way you did Milton. When I first met me, I felt the same way. Couldn't do it. Couldn't throw a kick. You remember? I mean, all excuses. Can't throw a kick. Can't do this. Man, your patience was amazing. How you sit there and you take your time to work and study. You do all you do the same way. I mean, that's a great experience. And like, how you say, a lot of old students come back to you and reflect how much they're proud of working with you, of being able to even be your presence.
Appreciate that, man. I really appreciate you saying that. I live for that. I'm very, very proud that the students that I work with now, the people, the amazing team of people that I get to work with, almost all of them have been with me for a great many years. And I started solely doing training and teaching in 2005, and since then I've kept pretty much the same students the entire time. And in the martial arts business, that's not super common, And even though I've had to move areas, I have students that drive 45 minutes to an hour to come see me 4 or 5 days a week, and I'm really, really proud of that process. But in that process, I've been able to make a Milton or two, and those Miltons have inspired and lit the fire for guys like Devern. I
That's
remember
right.
when Milton was getting ready for those fights. I remember days that Devern wanted to quit. I remember days that Devern would tell me it's too hard. I remember days that he would just put his head down and put his hands down and tell me like, no, I'm not gonna anymore. And the same energy we gave to the champion in the room, we gave that energy to Devern, and he inspired and lit up with life. And I feel like if it wasn't for that, maybe his life would be very, very different. I remember, his health was not the top of the list when we met. And after time went by, he was not just a guy being alive. He was an athlete. I live for stories like this.
Now,
You
I'll
know,
take note for that one.
those stories are very inspirational because, for the mass public, everybody likes the movie fighting or the TV fighting, okay? But they don't understand the real purpose or the structure of an actual fight, how dynamic it can be, how fast it can be, how dangerous it can be. Um, in my school, just in my situation, because we have glass doors, we have a lot of people that just stand outside and look. And I always tell my students, you know, train hard because those people are looking at you. They want to be in here and training. That's why you see their faces every time you're training, but they're on the outside because it's psychological and it's fear. I even had a conversation with a lady once where she was like, she wanted to train, but she doesn't believe in violence. And my direct response for her was, good. I don't believe in violence either. However, I'm not teaching you how to fight. I'm teaching you how to defend yourself in a certain situation. Because your belief of not believing in violence doesn't mean that the person that's being aggressive or attacking you doesn't believe in violence. So all you're doing is just creating a mindset to where you're
And
going
the
to be
only thing that can stop that is somebody who has the capability of violence.
exactly. That's it. That's it. You know,
Exactly.
and you have to be able to put your mindset in there to survive. That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. So, moving from your inspirations to your school, we all know that a lot of martial arts schools truly suffered. I saw a staggering statistic that almost 30%, maybe 40% of schools had to shut down across the country due to COVID. Um, how did you how did
It's
you make
been
do?
well. I was yeah. Sorry, I cut you off. It's been the kind of year where I mean, I can't complain. Though the world is going through more than I could I could imagine. You know, and in my situation, I was partnered with two other martial arts coaches, and we were renting from a commercial gym, like a commercial fitness gym, and it was a great big place that offered us a lot of opportunity, and that was great for us up until COVID shut down, and the gym just decided to shut down completely, and
Mhm,
we were left with no options really. And you know, in talking with my students, I met with my students and told them, and it was actually a group of my students' ideas. They told me, you know, hey, when you go to Thailand and you train with the best champions in the world, where do they train? And I said, you know, they normally train in an outdoor space built in the back of their property. And they said, okay, so we're going to start building tomorrow.
right.
And we built the gym that we train in now, and we based it on the design of the places that I train in Thailand. Um, and within the property that I live on, my uncle owns the house. We got a huge undeveloped area in the back that nobody had been in for 30 years. So my team of martial arts guys grabbed some axes and shovels, and we dug some holes and built an outdoor gym.
Nice.
That's awesome. That's super awesome.
Wow.
So like we were saying, getting away from my inspiration. Nope, that's getting right back into my inspiration all over again. You know,
Absolutely.
because my students are the kind of people who have always stood behind me in ways that I could more than I could ever have asked for, and looked out for me in ways that I could never even have hoped for. And even Deverne, in the times that he has a blessing, he thinks of me to put me in here too. So I always appreciate the family that I've been around. But Lucky wouldn't even describe it for me, you know. And now
So
we
has
have
your
outdoor authentic Thai facility.
has your facility grown because it's an outdoor facility, so to speak? Because there's also
uh,
concern of being inside and the exposure.
yeah, you know, that's the craziest thing. I think if I would have brought this idea up before COVID, people would have called me crazy. And now most of the parents and families that I work with are calling me a genius. They like being outside. They would rather not have circulated air. They would rather a lot of the things that I did here to make them comfortable. They really just they like it, you know. And the way that they tell each other, they said, you know, he brought authentic Thailand to Miami, and you know, we built a playground in my front yard for the kids to play with after they're done with classes. Mom will come back and do a fitness program with me, and the kids will be in the front playing on the ninja course. And in the middle of it all, we kind of built a family that everybody depends on. It's been really special.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes. That's good.
Um, I have more questions for you. Um, why do you think Muay Thai hasn't taken off the way that professional kickboxing has with organizations like Glory um, and things like that?
Um, well, I think one of the reasons is the traditionality of Muay Thai. You know, Muay Thai has a lot of culture wrapped around it. It has a lot of It's one of the only sports that has the name of a country within it. It's very nation centric. It's very tradition centric, and in a lot of our modern times, people are not as taken to culture and tradition, and unless it's their own, and they feel like it's something of an enemy when it's outside of their own traditions. I think that's part of it, but I think in this year we might not say that anymore. This year or the past 2 years, especially, um, Muay Thai has grown in popularity huge because of the Olympic recognition. This will be the first Olympic Games that Muay Thai is admitted as a sport, and it will be a medal sport in the next games that follows. Um, so I'm excited for that, and I think the growth of MMA, the exponential growth of MMA, has really helped the people to understand, to recognize Muay Thai. But I don't know if the Muay Thai competition scene has grown as much. Uh, but now that the Olympics is helping that, we've had a big turnaround.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, we all know what the Olympics did for Taekwondo back in '88, so it's going to be a very interesting time to see how Muay Thai explodes due to the Olympic exposure. Um, what do you have, and what do you say to those people out there that are interested in getting in Muay Thai, but just think that it's too violent or it's too dangerous? Because that's really the only martial art where you have elbows and you also have knees. Did you hear me?
This rain is getting pretty bad, but I'm going to give you guys my best.
Yeah, we hear it.
I do believe that some people have the wrong impression about Muay Thai. I would not call it the most violent sport. It's actually wrapped up in the most tradition out of all of the martial arts that I get to be exposed to, and a lot more so than you would say in boxing. In every boxing gym I've ever been in, I've competed as a professional boxer for many years, and every boxing gym I've ever been in, there's guys taking concussions and knocking each other out. And a Muay Thai gym, that would never ever happen. And the tradition of Muay Thai, even if you were to knock somebody out, they would normally salute and stay by and wait for that person. You would never see fighters celebrating around the ring. Um, Even though we do have some of the most dangerous weapon sets when we bring in elbows and knees, um, that's also made it so that there's less fights that go long distances and allowing for less CTE, less concussion, and less death in the ring than almost any other competitive sport as far as combat sports. And I think all of it combined is the reason that Muay Thai. I don't consider it. I call my team beautiful violence, but I don't consider it violent. I consider it actually very traditional and understanding of power to not have to use that power. You know.
We understand.
Exactly. So, let's go talk about your fight career. Like, give us an outline of your fight career. Like, when you were fighting, like, how was it different than coaching now?
Um,
Say
well,
it again, Fraser. We're having a little bit of issue
Yeah,
with the
okay.
internet
Oh,
connection.
okay. Sorry about that. What I was saying was, go back to your fighting days when you were fighting, and how did that influence you as you teaching your students? Some mistakes you made in the ring, some mistakes you made prevent from happening in the ring, to make them better fighters based on what you went through, that
well,
experience.
me in my fighting career, I was never fighting to become the world's best fighter. I was never on a journey to become the world's best champion. I fought every fight that I fought in my career, even as a young person when I began competing, I was doing it so that I could be a better teacher. Um, I always told my students that if you're at a swim class and they've never been in the pool, they shouldn't be teaching you. So I fought with the intentions of being a good teacher. I could not teach somebody to fight a left-hander if I had not done it. I could not
Yeah.
teach somebody to be an MMA fighter if I hadn't done it. So I have fought for um, amateur level boxing and professional boxing. I fought in amateur MMA and professional MMA. I fought for Strike Force in the biggest show that South Florida had ever had at the time. I fought for professional organizations in 3 different countries. But all of that was so that I could be a more effective teacher. You know?
Exactly. So I was saying, like, based on your tradition, you taught me when I first came there. Like, you always start a class with the story tradition of how Muay Thai started. Like, can you enlighten us and tell us the story, the found about the community Muay Thai? Like, you tell us every time in practice before we start, like even practice.
Well, I hope again, like just like Milton inspired you, just like my stories may have inspired you along the way. I hope that Muay Thai is an inspiration. I hope it becomes a muse to bring great things out of people's lives. Some of us are going to train in the martial arts. Some of us are going to fight in the martial arts, and some of us are just going to learn the martial arts. But all of us can benefit. All of us can. I'm going to start saying with George just said to everybody now. I'm going to say we start where we are now, and we just add to that. And maybe that could be a philosophy for our entire life, you know. And if we always take a beginner's mindset and try to make ourselves better from everything we bump into, maybe the world would be a better place. You know?
I think so. I think so too. Any question, George?
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Something happened with my internet connection. But with everything going on now, what advice can you give to people listening to this podcast about self-defense? We're always hearing this self-defense, self-defense, self-defense. What are the simple, basic approaches that you could give as far as advice right now to somebody who's looking at a self-defense program and saying, I'm afraid, it looks too hard. What advice can you give?
I really truly believe that self-defense is not based on the art that you've studied. I believe that the people who will be the most effective and people who understand the most about self-defense is about awareness.
That's right.
That awareness can come from many things. Me and my sons, I have two sons, one 12 and one 7 years old. And every department store that we ever walk into, the very first 3 steps in, we discuss where are we going to meet if we get turned around from each other. At some random moment in that store, I'm going to turn away from my 7-year-old while he's looking at a toy. I go to the other aisle, and I'll wait and test him and see if he goes back to the spot we discussed. If he waits to talk to a police officer like we discussed. If that plan is in place. Once a month, I wake my two sons up in the middle of the night, and I pretend the house is on fire. And we pretend what it is I plan for them to do. And that awareness is something that we carry with them. And then that's like our self-awareness. But in self-defense, I think we should approach it the same way. Yesterday at the park with my two sons, I covered my 12-year-old's eyes, and I said, okay, how many people are around us right now? He should have been aware. He should have known how many. How many of them are adults? Okay, and who's the one guy we're keeping our eye on? And if that becomes our first step in self-defense, then we can choose what tools and weapons we want to add to that self-defense. But it doesn't have to be something scary. It doesn't have to be
Right.
something that to get punched in the face. It can start with something as simple as being aware. You know.
All right. We're going to go to a little bit of a Q&A right now. I think we have one question. Jordan Anthony Dunn asked, what was your tough fight in your career?
The toughest fight in my career was against a man named Andy Turland. I'll never forget this guy. He's from United Kingdom, and we got to meet in Barbados in my first professional Muay Thai fight. This was his 17th event, 17th pro fight,
Oh wow.
and my first. And that alone made me pretty nervous. And throughout that fight, I was able to throw him out of the ring. I was able to what I thought for smash him every round. I lost a split decision, even though I kind of feel like I won. But I consider that a learning moment. I really took away a winning moment in my life from it. But definitely my toughest fight, Muay Thai fight with Andy Turley.
All right. So let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. The point system that you said before. I saw a couple of our friends lost the fight. The point system. How different is the point system scoring in a Muay Thai fight versus a kickboxing fight?
Oh, well, okay. So we're talking about two similar but very different sports. Ping pong and tennis are very similar, but Muay Thai and kickboxing similar but very very different. And the scoring is very very different too. It's like a long discussion of its own. But I think the easiest way to think about it would be damage. Kickboxing might be scored by points, and where Muay Thai is scored by damage.
Gotcha.
Okay. So to follow up Jordan's question for me, what was your easiest fight that you had?
Aha! My easiest fight is
You got
actually
happy on that one. You got happy on that one.
I got happy on this one. A Muay Thai fight that I had in 2015 versus a local brawler guy who I think he's the opposite of everything I stand for. He's kind of a thug. He said a bunch of curse words while I was doing my ceremony before the fight. He spoke to me really disrespectfully, and at the weigh-ins, he came in 10 pounds overweight. So I got half of his money based on our contract. And coming into the weigh-ins, he was 10 pounds heavier than me, and at the fight, he was 22 pounds heavier than me. Oh, and I smashed him every round of a 4-round fight, and I loved every second of it. And I have pictures. I hired a photographer because I knew how good I was going to do, and I have pictures of everything I did to that guy every moment of the way. So that might have been my easiest. It was the easiest and the funnest.
And we're proud of fighting. We're great fight.
To follow up, did it humble him? Did he come back? Did he appreciate the beating, or was he still the same guy?
Oh, I tell this to all my students. You're never going to teach an adult a lesson. You're never going to, finish this guy off, and then he's going to come back and say, wow, I realized the error of my ways. No, he acted like a clown. In 2018, they gave him a microphone again, and he spoke about me all over again 3 years after I smashed him. He wanted to get back in the ring, but he can't make the weight that we fight at, so.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that one again.
Funny.
Oh, man.
All right, guys, I got to go. I got to run.
I really appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Great honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
my pleasure. Bye-bye.
Oh, it's so funny.
Oh, you should see a Trey. He's hilarious. But he's so traditional, as I like about him. He's so traditional. And he don't teach it as individuals, he teaches as a family. We watch out for each other, look out for each other. And I think that was a really good message that I thought we bring to the show, to show that every martial arts school is not the same. They don't treat you as an individual. They don't treat you as just that person. You over here, do this, do that, kick, punch, do that. He actually takes time to study with you,
Right. Well, it's difficult training people, because everybody has their own expectation or ideal kind of what it's going to be like. So until they get there and understand that it's not as scary in your mind as you thought it was going to be, it's a huge hurdle. I mentioned this last night about your mind shutting down so much so that your body can't perform. That's really a challenge with a lot of people and a lot of new students. And the other thing, too, believe it or not, is the fact that a lot of people don't really understand how hard it is to train, to work out, and put your body through something it's never done before. You're using muscles that you've never used before, whether you're kicking, you're punching, kneeing, elbowing, spinning. You're using muscles that you've never used before. So it's a complete shock to the entire system. And that itself can be intimidating as well, too.
Exactly. That was it when I studied karate versus I started Muay Thai, and I did jiu-jitsu, but I have more joy in Muay Thai than I had in most of the other arts. Maybe because I like to kick, punch, get more close and personal. But I mean, I learned so much in conditioning and training wise, and like I say, helped my health wise a lot because God look at records and say, "Oh wow, you're sick but you're healthy." Like it get unweird question and answers like, "How are you sick and healthy at the same time?" That don't make any sense. But that usually happen when your body is going through a certain regimen and it's built a certain way, conditioning, nutrition. And the way you say, what you're saying is mindset over matter is the greatest thing ever. You think you do it, you can do it.
Right.
You can't do it.
Right.
I say the old saying, the mind is the most powerful weapon in your arsenal if you learn to utilize it.
So let's speak a little bit more about that, because I know that a lot of people are talking about health, not so much mental health, but just health. And a lot of people are really trying to understand how that positions itself. Do you mind sharing with the fans a little bit of what your health issue was before you started training?
Oh, wow. Before I started training, one, I was overweight. So that's one thing. I was overweight. I would go in the gym because I wanted to better myself and build up better because my health was declining. Like I said, I used to be in great health all through my life. Race, football, sports, whatever. Had no issues. All of a sudden, one day, my body shut down on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people that it's the hardest thing to do when you're used to doing so much and you can't. Not because you don't want to,
Right.
because you don't physically can't do. Your body won't allow you to do it. Your body gives up on you. I tell
Right.
people that your body and mind have to have a good coordination going on, a teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
Your mind says you can do it, your body should be able to react to it the exact same way. And my health declined to the point where my mind and body were out of sync. And when I went to the gym, I was declining. That was a health problem. Like, got bad news with my heart. So I was like, oh man, this ain't gonna work. I'm gonna try this. And I was lazy at the gym. And like I said, I happened to talk to him. He brought me over and says, come train with us. I'm like, no. I can't do none of that. No. I can't my leg past my toe. No. I got knee injury. Like, I thought bringing more excuses on
Right.
why I cannot do it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my knee hurt. Oh, this, or that. I got bad backs. He come back and said, you know what? I got 2 ligaments in my knee. I got this going on this right here. I messed my knee up this week here. And I'm still fighting. Matter of fact, he's still fighting too. And he pointed out at Milton. Then Milton became my training partner.
Right.
So he been my inspiration and also my training partner. And the first wake up he gave me was a kick.
Mm-hmm.
First wake up go, whoa, okay. Can we do that again?
Mm-hmm.
Now my competitor started kicking in, like, hold on now.
Right.
I started
Just
going at the box
look,
like
you
this.
kicking.
He
Right.
like,
You know, I'm
okay.
here. I'm in the fight. No, I understand.
Exactly. So then, like last year, I got quite a worse news, which I found out I have heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the first person I reached out to was my coach. It's kind of weird because, like you said, we had a bit of bond, and we were like a family. And I was training. I wanted to fight. I wanted to be a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Tell you what, you can't do exactly what you used to do, but I got a regimen for you to get you back to where you want to be." I said, "Really? How do you do that?" Like, they told me, the doctor told me you can't do this, you can't do that. Doctor gave me every excuse what you cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I think that's the worst thing somebody can tell you, especially if you're trying to come over a health issue,
Right.
especially if there's a heart. But I said, people, hear a history. I have friends who also died of heart disease, heart attacks, strokes, and they're all my same age, around the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm already getting scared coming in the 40s, and now you're telling me this too. So when I started training with him, it took I think a week or two before I even throw a punch. Like, he wanted me to throw it or a kick. And every time he just do it, I always stop. I would just stop. Right in the middle of just 30 kicks, I do 15. Or I do this. So you gonna quit on life? So what you mean? Says, as you quitting on your life expectancy rate. Because your heart can go as much as your tell it to go. If you tell it to stop now, you're gonna stop when you stop.
Right.
Huh? So you gotta retrain your body to limitations.
Right.
If you have, they don't see it that way. Your body sees a way to improve and increase. So that's what I did. And like you said, about month, 2 months, I became not the same little fat kid that started a couple of months ago. Now I'm becoming an athlete.
Right.
Becoming that guy I wanted to be. I built my confidence back up, built my health back up. I mean, Muay Thai did so much for me, and then building myself back up, compared to the other arts, was totally different. I grew to love of the tradition, the way they can run, where I can go in the ring, we go at it back toe to toe. Like he said, we're friends afterward. You don't, and that's why I frown with certain sportsmanship I don't like. I mean, I'm not a person. I love MMA. I love it to death. But me standing in front of somebody saying, "I'm gonna kick you," what the purpose is? We talk in the ring. That's what I was taught. And the same way through my life. I don't tell that way. Tell me what I can do. Right. Tell me what I can do to improve myself. Don't tell me what I cannot do. Tell me what my heart can do if I do this, if I do this, if I change this, if I change my dieting, if I go back exercising. How would it change my heart to be better, more efficient, and I could be able to live a lot longer. Right. So I mean, that's what it did to me. And I say, now look at me. I mean, I've had what, 3 heart attacks, a stroke, and you can't tell. Right. That's why I say I tell anybody out there, don't let nobody tell what you cannot do
That's right.
unless you say you can't do it.
Right.
You know?
Well, I definitely concur with that. I know that I've been training in martial arts since I was 11 years old, and so being 46 now, even though people say you're still one of the fittest persons I've ever seen, it's this, that, and the third. It's always hasn't been easy. There was a time in my life where my training wasn't training for a fight or training for a competition. It was maintenance. And then you have kids that come along and they take over all your time. So you literally go from training 4 days a week to three to two to getting
Exactly.
into one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's always never fails that there's a health issue that brings it back to
Exactly.
doing what you're supposed to be doing. Because in my family history, my father's side, there's a history of high blood pressure. So most of my life and adult life, I've always been on that borderline where they're like, you don't have high blood pressure, but it's kind of high, but it's not. You're good. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I had to start paying attention to that more too as I started getting older, because my training routine, like I said, went from hard training to maintaining. So I really wasn't pushing myself until a couple of years back when the doctor was just like, I think you're kind of high. I'm like, well, this is my first appointment with
Yeah.
you, but I've been kind of high my whole adult life. Tell me
Yeah.
something that
Different.
what I mean, that I don't know. But
Exactly.
it got me back to thinking like, I shouldn't be in this predicament or situation because I know what to do. It's just a matter of going ahead now and just doing it without the doctor saying or the doctor putting like a little check on it. So I definitely believe in physical fitness for fitness and health purposes,
Exactly.
for longevity, for a better quality of life, believe it or not. Um, I'd rather be around still being able to pick up my grandkids like I picked up my kids without having to worry about health issues. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
definitely
Exactly.
something that I preached until the day that I die as far as physical fitness and health.
Exactly. They
Um,
don't tell you that though. They don't tell you that at 40 though.
yeah,
They don't
that's
tell you
true.
small detail at 40. At 40, it gonna decline. Everything goes down. What you mean? I mean, if I do this 20 years ago, well, I'd prepare myself even better 20 years ago.
Right,
But
right,
upper age coming. And I'll tell you, like a lot of people look at influence who like 60 years old. Look at Schwarzenegger, look at Sylvester Stallone. They're in their 60s and 70s.
right,
And look real good. I mean, in shape,
right,
you know? And that I look at that like, wow, I can be that at 60.
right,
I can be that at 70, you
right.
know? Instead of that, the 70, you see like, oh my God, my back is killing me. Lord help. Nah, it be better than that. I mean, I think people should look at that more as in, I can do it versus, oh, I got a little health issue here. Or like you said, you have a health issue and I don't want to do it. I can't, you know? I tell people like, I could have gave up. I could have gave up and sit in bed all day and look worse than I am right now, you know? But I didn't. That's a good thing about working out and I think the mindset of training.
Right.
The mindset of training won't let you quit. Because once you're a competitor, always a competitor. No matter how old you is, how small, once a competitor is always a competitor, no matter what you do. You
Right.
compete in life.
Right.
And just now at 40, instead of competing against an opponent, your opponent is yourself.
Exactly.
The hardest opponent to beat is yourself. I don't care what nobody tell you. The hardest opponent is yourself. Because yourself can put you down, self can beat you up, self can make you feel very depressed. What other people can't do, self can do.
That's right.
You know?
Well, I definitely agree with you. I definitely agree with you. Like I said last night, 90% of it is just showing up. You know.
Exactly.
Speaking of health, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the news that has been basically international since it broke last night. Uh, President Trump and his wife have both tested positive for COVID
Oh,
19 and have been, I guess, now quarantined. Um, I personally have mixed feelings about this. And the reason why I say mixed feelings about it is because, one, I'm praying for him and his family that they do go positive and not go negative with it, meaning that it's a speedy recovery and that
exactly.
COVID-19 does not hurt the president in any way. um, or put him through any unnecessary strain or stress with his health. Um, that's my first thought about it. But also, too, I feel like the way that he has conducted himself and been really callous and careless about it, um, it's like, how did he expect not to contract it when
Exactly.
he's so careless about it? And, I've been reading a lot of stuff on social media and just reading, and everybody's like, good for him. He finally got it. Now he knows this, that, and the third. But this is still not a, regardless of his politics, this is
Yeah.
still not a disease that you play around with. Um, you know, so
Cut it down.
um, how do you feel about it?
Well, I'm gonna say it like this. I mean, one, he's a human being. Regardless of the situation may be, regardless of policies, regardless of things he may have, his thoughts are, he's a human being. And I don't think anybody should wish ill any human being because it can happen to you too.
Right,
You know? And it doesn't matter you're good or bad. COVID-19 had not actually picked out anybody bad or good. It picked the best of them and gotten it.
right,
So my thing is maybe this will open his eyes better. I think as in help people be more cautious about COVID-19, maybe take it a little more serious
right,
that he needs to take more measures and steps to prevent others from getting what he already attracted right now and experiencing right now. You
right.
know, he going through the same problem people were telling for years. I mean, for the last
Months,
a year, months
right,
about you need to do this, you need to do this. Kept people make masks on, don't wear a mask. He been leading by example of what not to do by not wearing a mask and stuff, saying no, you don't really need it. But now you have it. Is it one thing the mindset gonna change? Is he
right,
gonna come out not wearing a mask?
right,
Is how you gonna tell people now to wear the mask
right,
or certain thing like that? And the same thing to touch back on certain things he may have said and done, you know, and he should think about a lot. Like for instance, I think he think more of a running the country as a business aspect,
right,
where most businessmen are not very careful. They're careful, but not careless on certain situations. But he's the opposite of that. You
right,
know, like certain things you do, you don't run a country the way you run your business.
right,
It's not the same thing. You not you got almost billions of people that rely on you to do your job properly and manage properly. You know, I mean, he's done some things. Maybe policies that he put in place may worked. Some policies put in place didn't work. But it's all presidents. There's some policy you put in place that may work, but not work. You know, because remember, I think he learned by him being a businessman. He learned the books of being a president. He learned the theory of being a president. That's why certain things he does, they can't touch him. Because remember, I tell you, it's stuff that we don't even read. There's policies that the country has. There's traditions we have. There's stuff the president can do, but don't know they can't do because they don't tell the president.
right,
Because some president get in office, they got problems. Immediately got problems. They gotta deal with it. So they don't have time to go through the books, read the proper procedure. What parts you can use. If something happens here, what can I do for this case? What can I do in this case here? Like, there's some policy right now that, believe it or not, what he probably paying on right now is that if a pandemic or chaos is happening during an election, some people don't, they have the right to say not to change a power in a time of crisis. Because you still need, for I say, strong leadership to overcome that epidemic or whatever is going on, pandemic, illnesses, chaos, because you don't want a country to change power exactly when something bad is happening. Because who to say the next person had the power to change it or the policies be in place that will allow him to do so? You know?
well, I have a little different opinion when it comes to that for two reasons.
Okay.
Because I think that a natural and an aggressive change of president and change of policy was written into the Constitution. That's why you have a transition team. And I also believe that you also need to listen to your advisors. The president is one person, but
Yeah.
when you're running a country, you have advisors that are supposed to be experts in all those different areas that you would need for you to run the country. And I think that you need to listen to your advisors and what they're saying because, quote unquote, those are the experts that you put in place. You know, you mentioned that he runs it like a business. Well, in his business, he micromanaged a lot of things. You know, in the White House, you don't have to micromanage everything because you chose the experts that would be able to handle that situation for you and give you advice on their expert opinion. You know, and it's the same thing with the uh, transition to power. You know, our forefathers and founders of the nation had the wherewithal to put that particular thing in place so we're not left with huge gaps or huge gaps in power while a new president is being elected or a new president is being sworn in. That's why even in the Constitution, believe it or not, what people don't understand or, or may have not have known if you don't read politics or read certain things or if you're not a political junkie or even just read in general.
Exactly.
Um, the United States Congress has a time limit as to when the next person will become president, even if he takes the oath of office or not, even if he's sworn in. And I believe that time is somewhere around 12:01 or 12:31. At 12:31 on a specific day and time, the next person who's supposed to be the president technically is the president of the United States, whether he takes the oath of office or not. Um, that's why when you watch the inaugurations, they do everything in a time limit to make sure that they hit that 12 p.m. timeline. So it's kind of like official. But
Exactly.
according to the United States Congress, at that particular time, the new person who's been elected president is still the president of the United States. So I found that interesting as well too
Yeah.
when it comes to
Exactly.
just learning and really understanding because for me, the issue that I have with this particular administration is the fact that it's not really based on fact. And a lot of things that he does or says is not based on fact. You know, you have a problem when what you're saying is different than what your advisors are saying. You see what I mean?
Exactly.
And to push that narrative when it becomes so detrimental and dangerous, not just to me, but to everybody in the country. To push that type of policy when it becomes dangerous to everybody is very challenging. It's very challenging. And I think that's why you see a lot of people gloating um, on social media about him contracting or at least being positive with COVID 19
Yeah.
um, because they're like, uh, he deserved it because of what he didn't do or you know what he should have done or what he's been saying. So I just leave it as, you know, look, God knows what he's doing. He always has. And maybe this is something that will humble him and make him pay more attention. You know, if he
Exactly.
goes through some symptoms or not, you don't know. You know, he may be asymptomatic like a lot of people are, but just the fear of having it and the unknown may, you know, give him a change of heart as we go through all this. But, you know, we're officially about
Okay.
uh, literally on the 4th, I think, or the 3rd, will be 1 month away from the election. So we'll
Exactly.
definitely see, you know, how this whole thing works,
Exactly. I mean,
how it
I
moves
look at it this way too. Like, unlike some Americans, he has more advantage. Based by being a president, you have better health care. They're gonna make sure you come out better. Whereas some Americans don't have that luxury, you know? Some Americans don't have insurance. That's why I say like certain policies he took in that he thought that was right by taking away hurt majority of Americans, especially at this time. Because think about it, every American don't have insurance, especially when jobs are laying off, who
hmm
had benefits, who had the benefit to be able to go to the doctor and stuff. Those jobs not there. So now you got millions of Americans who don't have health care because they lost their job for one. Two, they couldn't afford it if they did have the job because some of them pretty high policy. Have you seen some of the plans? Ridiculous, you know. And not to mention, I think what people forget about more is the elderly, the older Americans who health are basically almost declining a little bit as it is anyway, who depend on health care. Who depend on a little health care he thought probably was not. efficient under Obamacare, whatever, which it has flaws. Everything when you initiate something new, it always have flaws. You always have ways to open to improve.
Right.
Instead of destroying everything, find ways to improve it.
Right.
You can have ways. Okay, I may think that's maybe wrong, but how about we implement this into the Obama plan? How about we put that into it? It take away some of the overages and some of the coverage costs when you go to a doctor, or take away they have to pay for emergency visits. Give them some incentive so when they go to the hospital or go to the doctor, they can benefit from it. The doctor benefits from it, and you also benefit from it. That's some of the things now. So
we have about 5 minutes left, but I wanted to also talk about this. Stock markets have fallen due to his
oh man,
virus test.
I was crying right now. I started crying. Help me!
Yeah, I'm surprised you haven't gotten a call from your broker yet, as far as everything or what you're into.
Well, they want to call me. He probably like, oh, I can't know how to say it, but you lost some money.
Well, I'm sure you're going to check your tape, once you get off the show today.
You already know.
It's too funny. But look, man, it's inevitable. Like I said, I'm empathetic to what he's going through as a human being. But at the same time, too, like I said, maybe God knows what he's doing by having it happen at this particular time so we can change the narrative. Because I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but over 200,000 people have died from COVID, with over 7 million in the United States affected. And that's even greater than China's infection rate.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And some infection rates in Europe.
Exactly.
So I just hope that and pray that, something positive happens out of this negative for what we're going through.
Exactly.
Real quick, what are your predictions for Game 2 of the NBA Final?
Oh, I'm gonna tell you this way: he felt it. They know what he went through. I think he's gonna bounce back. I think he'll come back. The game gonna be a lot harder to Lakers than they thought the first game was. I mean, you've looked at it now. If you look at the stats, if they had get 10 more minutes now, the game would have went a lot differently because the third and fourth quarter, he started picking up a little bit. As their stars, they realized that they can play without their stars.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe you think Jimmy still hurt a little bit, boozed up a little bit, Dragon boozed up a little bit. So they a little bruised right now. So they back against the wall. Remember, they playing with nothing to lose. They won't supposed to be there.
Right.
So to me, that's dangerous. That is really dangerous for that team. So if the Lakers don't underestimate them. I think they might pull out Game 2.
Well, I always like very exciting finals. I very rarely sit down and watch finals where they're just sweeps because there's really nothing in it for me at that particular point. I really hope that Miami can bounce back and make this competitive. I think they're a little bit more athletic and fast on a few things, but I think also Los Angeles too has those gaps in place. So for instance, they have the new guys, they have the middle guys, and then they have the veterans. And with that 1, 2, 3 combination, they will always have the pieces that they need to basically sweep this championship. I mean, how many times have we seen LeBron James take over a game and next thing you know, they're 15, 20 points up because he took over the game.
That is true.
And I think that if Miami can recognize that and play to Miami's strengths, not Los Angeles, I think that they can make this a competitive finals. I really do. And I hope that they do. I like to see competitive in anything, whether it's kicking and punching, basketball, football. I like to see a competitive game.
Exactly.
I don't like to really see things when they just are complete blowouts because it's boring for me and it's a waste of my time, just being frank.
I feel the same way. It's based on what you said, like the keys. I think when they built the Lakers team, they built a team to cover every scenario they can come up against.
Right.
Because we know LeBron been down. He played 3 games down, 4 games down. So he know how to come back.
Right.
You got a Davis who he knows how to just win. He just know how to win. He got a drill just to win. Then you got a comeback kid, Dwight Howard. Count him out. Nobody want to think he'd make it. Look at him now. He's not even the same Dwight Howard that we
Right.
seen in Houston.
Right.
He's playing ball, and then you got that combination where you got a person who's building, coming in. Now you build that camaraderie. On the other side of the Lakers, they're young, and when you're young, they learn. They live to learn. They have growth, room to growth. And that's
Right.
dangerous because they can play off of that. Even if win or lose this series, they're gonna come away learning what they did wrong and make it
Right.
next year gonna be a different Heat team. You know, so on that aspect, you're right. I think the Heat make it this game. They might make this a good series, and we might be able to go Game 7. I'm looking at about Game 7. Push come shove.
We'll have to see. Well, fans, that's our show. We want to
Right.
thank Coach Dave for coming on and talking. Um, Stay tuned. We're going to be announcing our guest that we have next week, but we want to thank everybody for coming in and listening to this episode of Real Talk with George and Frazier. And I want to have everybody have a restful, relaxful, safe weekend.
Blessing day for everybody. This is
All right.
Frazier.
This is George signing off.